Alrighty, and welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm glad to be here, and I am finally bringing you all the top 10 game mechanics explained video. So this is going to go over quite a few aspects within the game, and it's going to take quite a while to cover everything, so bear with me. So the very first thing we're going to go ahead and talk about is the roles and what their place is in the game. And so for the tanks, is going to be our first one, and they mostly are there to soak the damage, to draw the aggro, but there's further caveats where you have certain kinds of tanks with good leader abilities that can grant defense up, grant invincibility, basically increase your survivability. And in certain kinds of boss fights, the actual dungeon raids themselves, there are a couple of bosses where it's more useful to have these kinds of things, and then other than that they have misc sort of abilities. Healer's Adjust could do attack down, Black Swordsman can create clones of himself later, and so the different kinds of tanks will play an important role in basically keeping your squishy characters, which is everybody but a tank for the most part, alive long enough to do the damage. So then now you have your support class, which is really weird because they're basically healers, but the way they function is support. And so you are mostly only going to need one of these per squad for the most part in doing dungeons, and then during raid bosses you may need one or more. Just depends on what they do, and their role is exactly that, to support your characters, to enable them to stay alive longer, stay alive long enough to do what all of the other roles need to do. So then you have your light DPS characters. These characters have a higher crit chance. They all have very high attacks and such not, and they have different kinds of support skills they can do, whether that is stun, poison, creating invisibility, increasing damage overall, self-healing, applying vulnerability. So they're all high damage, high crit, but they are very squishy, and so that's something to look out for. Then you have your medium DPS character, and these kind of just don't really have a sort of set role in what they can all do. So you have Mr. Darcy could do healing and freezing, Kirito is crits and high damage, Zero is bleeds, Gedron is stuns, daggers, and paralyzed, not stuns, Pika Pika is burn and what's it called, attack aura. You have Alexa's root and poisons, Red Dragon just doesn't really do anything. And so they are pretty much the category that can do okay damage, like okay health, okay survivability, but they don't really excel in any one thing over any other class. You have the range characters who exactly that, they stand from a range and they do a lot of damage. And so this is a very strong class throughout the majority of the game, just because the nature of the game, if you could do damage from afar and kill them from afar before the enemies have a chance to do damage back to you or inflict their AoEs, that just makes you very safe. And they have a whole bunch of ranged types of abilities, but nothing really that stands out that I want to talk about now. Then they function similarly with the range, but they focus a little bit more on status effects as well. So a range is just pure damage. These types of characters inflict more. So she could do a whole skew of abilities. You could do freeze, you could do high crits, multi-targeting attack buff, or vulnerability, summons, more summons, and poison, and that's pretty much it. And so you have all of these magic DPS characters, and they are actually very strong as well, mostly because they could do most of what the range can do, but they also have AoE capabilities. So those are the different kinds of roles. One other thing I want to talk about while I'm here is when you are leveling your character skills, there is a priority in which you want to do them, and that is mostly because when you're doing these challenges here, you could only earn so many per week, and so when you're grinding for those stones that you need to level your abilities here, it is going to take quite a while in order to max all of these. And so you want to first focus on your DPS characters. Whatever your main DPS characters, that's what you want to focus on next. You want a good support character like Windsummers, or maybe Foxy, maybe Pink Lady or Tsubasa in the early game, but you want one of these. And then as you are leveling, the best tips I could give you is once you have your main DPS characters focused, that'll allow you to progress through the campaigns quickly. And once you have that done, then you want to build one character in each role. Whatever that character is in each of the roles, you pick that character and then you focus on them. And then you pick a second character and then you focus on that character. And then you pick a third character within that role and then you focus on that character. And so the reason why you do that is because you only need 3 characters for most of these challenges, and then it'll be 4 characters for some of the later challenges, and then up to 5 characters for the tier 5 challenges. And so what you want to do is you want to eventually expand the characters you're focusing on to be able to complete these role challenges as soon as possible. That is going to be your main priority, probably around maybe like T4 or T5 gear is right when you want to start switching into that, as well as focusing whatever your damage DPS characters are. Another thing I'm going to talk about, this is tip number 3, is the different kinds of tooltips here. So if you go into the screen here, and then it'll give you a couple of what each of these do. So DOT, debuff, projectile, buff, AoE, buff, and a summon. And so you go into all these characters, and I'd highly recommend reading each of the characters you own, what each of their abilities do, what types of damages they could do, and such, because there'll be an update coming here soon, which I can't talk about too much, but these kinds of abilities will help you to get a handle on what the characters can do and what all they can provide for you. And it's something to notice that you can scroll these down, and there's a level 6 here, and that every time you increase these, so it gets 50% max up HP, it'll also change this text right here to reflect it. So it's not this plus 50% HP, it's just going to change this to reflect all of these different changes when you level that up. And so you have tons and tons of different tooltips within the game. You have like attack down, auto res, bleed, blind, you have cooldown reduction, cooldown speed up, defense down, fear freeze, leech, invincibility, terrify, vanish, vulnerability, like to just name a couple. So there are a couple of tooltips which won't show up in here, and they won't show up in game when you're battling as well, and those are going to be your auras, cleanses, executes, haste, heal, pull, pushback, res, self heal, stagger, summon, and taunt. And so those are all different types of tooltips that just won't show even if it says it here. So then you have some of these other ones where it can cleanse buffs, like it doesn't have a tooltip in game for showing those kinds of things. So step number 4 is going to be, what am I going to spend all of my currencies on? And so for gold, the very first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have enough to raise your characters to the next star, because the costs go quite a bit. The next thing you want to do is make sure you upgrade your skill levels here. That's going to be the next thing. And then the final thing I'd recommend is to buy all 5 of these up until, hard to say, maybe like T7 or T8, and then you could start purchasing just the 3 that you need. Yeah, that's it for gold. Very, very useful to get to use that for gold. So the other thing is the alliance tokens. You want to save them until you unlock the red mats here in the alliance store, which as well, I want to say it's around T7, T8 maybe, is when you first unlock these. And basically that's all you're going to be spending your tokens on, is these, until much later in game when you're just going to be buying scrolls. The expedition tokens, you want to level these, see, I already like messed up here, but you want to level all of your, probably just 3 shard slots to level 7, and then you don't need to worry about the last one as much. And then from there you want to focus on 1 loot slot to 7, and then your next 2 to 7. And that'll probably take you about maybe 8 months or so to get that far. And so by then, hopefully it'll be different or changed again. But then the last thing is for the gems. If you were a new player, you want to make sure you are buying the Alliance Coin Gift Pack. You could do this once a week and you'll make up more than enough, but I wouldn't do this unless you are in an active alliance that has gotten together and discussed that everyone in the alliance is going to be doing this, but this is a very good purchase to do. As a new player, I highly recommend that you buy the 10 times recruit pack twice, and then you never have to buy it again, because that's going to be the best bang for your buck. That's going to allow you to have as many characters as possible, so you could start leveling them up evenly in a manner that is going to help you with gaining progress faster. Tip number 5 is going to be when and how should I farm. And so when you're playing these stages, in the first 3 worlds, you're going to be given heaps and heaps of energy. And it's very tempting to say, oh, I need farm this. And so you're going to go like this and click farm, or better yet, I'll show you on Furnace Mech. You click farm and you select 50 and then you use it like that. Don't do that. Please do not do that. What you want to do is you want to go through and you want to click go and you want to farm it manually for all of these stages. The more times you can manually complete the stages, the better. The reason being is in here you get character experience. If you click farm, you do not get any character experience. So this is a mechanic that will enable you to level your characters faster. And so what you're going to do is you're going to go in, you're going to click go, and you're going to select your DPS carry, and then you're going to select 4 characters that you need to level up. So I usually will sort by level, and then I'll scroll all the way down, and then I'll click the characters I want to level up. Another alternate method is if you know you're much stronger than the content you're farming for, you could just bring in 5 characters that you need to level. But I always try to have at least 1 healer or 1 DPS character in there to help me progress fast. So that is going to be a huge thing. So that's the how you farm, and then the when you farm is going to depend on a couple of things. And so I probably should have pulled up my other account to be doing this video because it's kind of hard, but basically what you're going to be doing is, say these 7 characters are going to be T8s, and they're going to be missing 2 or 3 apiece, and then the rest of the characters are going to be T9s, and then maybe I'll have like 1 T10. What that means is when you are leveling your roster, you want to make sure that you are farming just the bosses, because what happens is when you go to do a boss, they have a chance to drop this gear for you, and then any other stage just gives you crafting mats. So a single boss fight, and if it drops a gear, is worth maybe 200 or 300 energy. I forgot, I'd done the math before, but it is so much better to do a single boss fight over any other stage. And so that's why it's important to make sure you're buying your at least 3 boss energy keys, the refreshes, every day. And you'll probably do this for a couple of months. And so you're going to farm bosses until you have about 20, maybe 25, even 30 of your roster to all the same tier. And then from there, that's when I'm going to click this, and I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to click the item I want to farm, and then I'm going to go to that stage and then farm that. That is the order I'll do things. And so that's basically how you're going to progress there. That'll help you to level the roster evenly, as well as gearing it evenly, and that'll help you progress faster and help you avoid getting stuck on stages and bosses. Tip number 6 is going to be on the actual formations. So I'm gonna go in, and when you click this button right here, you could click this and it'll show you the formations, and it has a whole bunch of different formations to choose from. And so in order to do them, you need 3 different characters. I can't go like, I can't click this and say Blood Rage and then put in characters that don't fulfill this. And so you could see that I'm missing a medium DPS character here. So if I remove my tank and I was to put in a medium DPS character, I would now have the Blood Rage formation activated. And so these formations are quite important for progression, and I'm going to talk about a couple of the ones here that are actually good for new players. So Blood Rage is a very good one in the early stages, just because it takes a little bit more time in order to do damage, but then later you'll replace it with Charge Up formation, because you could significantly increase your damage output with a character like Zappy or even Toolshed. Gotta Go Fast is mostly used for daily dungeon. Hard to Kill, you'll have a very, very niche use for this in the Clone Tower and in some of the early game bosses. If you are lacking healing, you could use that. Lucky Stars, it has a very niche use in Clone Tower. Magic Slingers is another good DPS. You'll use that in many places. Poof has a very niche use in the Clone Tower as well. Powered Rangers is another good one. Sir, look out. This is interesting, but I don't care for it, just because the taunting minions can have a chance to mess up the way you do damage in the lower half. Sugar High is another very good DPS formation. Super Shield is fairly useless. Unstoppable, this is interesting, but I'd rather have damage. And then Vampires has niche use in primarily early game raids. And Archer's Delight, I didn't talk about that, but it's okay. If you have nothing else in doing your alliance raids, this is okay. And then Biggins has a niche use in a couple of the raid bosses. And Fireworks, you'll never use Fireworks. It's very useless. And that was pretty much all of them. So I'm gonna go ahead and just auto slot here the characters, and I'm going to go ahead and go in, and we're gonna talk about tip number 7 here, which is the tactics and strategies you could do as new players. And so this is kind of important because a lot of new players join this game and they go, oh, look at all these amazing buttons here. This is an auto game, or it's an idle game. And Raid Boss most definitely is not either of those. It is not idle and it is not auto. So please do not turn on 4 times and auto unless you know what you're doing or you're way stronger than the content, just because it'll make your life so much easier when you're doing these stages. And so now what happens is you could click and move your characters like this. And so there's a couple of movement commands I'm going to talk about. You could drag and release, and it is a blue circle. It'll move your characters, and what'll happen is they'll move to that spot and then they'll continue like normal. So that's the first one. The other one is you click and hold until it turns into a yellow, and what that does is it slows down time while it's doing it, and then it moves your characters there and they will hold there. But what happens is if there's any characters within range, they'll still shoot if they're a ranged character. And if you have your auto on and it uses a leader ability, that will remove the hold command, and so that's something you need to look out for. So you could drag and release, or you could click drag and release. You can also tap a character and tap a group, or the best way to do that is to click the red arrow. So if there's multiple groups, you could click either of the arrows. And so that was that. Now we're going to talk about the new player tactics, and it was exactly what I did there. Was I pulled one enemy by going into aggro range. And so what I'll do is I'll go like this and I'll move them. Here, let me do a better show. And I'll move them into range of just one of the enemies. And so what I'll do is I'll inch forward, and then I'll inch forward, and then I'll move them away. Or I could say, hey, go here, and then pull them away. And so what this does is you could pull enemies one by one rather than pulling multiple enemies. And so this is a very important tactic in the lower level dungeons, especially when you're getting overwhelmed by mobs. And so here you could see, I could select the group or I could select the arrow as well. And so those are both options you could do. Another thing is when you have summon or taunt items here, or abilities, it's better to put them behind the enemies, behind here. So in case they have an AoE ability, then they will shoot their AoE away from you, or they'll do their attack away from where your squad is, right here. And so that really helps to keep your characters alive and to be able to get some of your damage dealt here. We're just going to speed things up here to get to the next stage. Probably should have picked a better stage for showing some of these different types of abilities I could do here. But we're going to go ahead, and because I don't think this one has any type of enemies that can do AoEs, because this is the last stage. So another tip is going to be tip number 8, the character details. If you click here, it shows you all of the different character details here. What your current buffs or debuffs are here, and so you could click between them, or you could click the arrows and it'll move them. And then something else is it'll also show you all of the different enemy characters as well, so you could do that to check enemy characters, and it's very important that you do that. And then this has a second part to it, which I will show once we get to the end screen here. You could do the second part to that is if you hit the combat details it shows you this screen, and most people are familiar with this screen. So you could sort it by damage, you could sort it by healing, you could sort it by damage received. And so looking on it, it doesn't really, I don't think good characters to show, but these are all primary colors, so they're very light. And then there's also a secondary, which can be a dark version of this. So it'll be a dark red, a dark green, and then a dark blue. And so what that is, it is the damage, the tanking, or the healing that was done via summons or other types of summon abilities. So that could be clones or summons mostly. Something else you could do here is you click these characters and it shows you the total damage, what my maximum hit was, my minimum hit, any sort of like healing values will show up here as well. And then it also shows you what all the damage that you dealt and where it came from. So my 1 star, which is my basic melee, did about 7% of his total damage. My axe throw, which was his 2-star ability, did about 10% of his total damage. And then big chop, his 4-star ability, did about 2.58%. And then cleave did about 80% of his damage. And so this is very useful in learning characters, so you could see where all their damage is and where all their healing and such is coming from. The only thing it doesn't show you is the debuffs and stuff. So if I was using Jaina, for example, or Queen of Diamonds, I wish it would show how long or how many seconds or how much damage it dealt from all of their debuffs, but that's the only thing it doesn't show you. And so the very final thing I want to talk about is the power of stacking auras, and this is basically how to increase your overall damage when doing a battle. And so I'm just doing auto select. Actually, let me clear and do auto select. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to point out certain kinds of characters. So I'm going to put Nippleman first here. So Nippleman has a Rage Aura, which increases attack speed, cast speed, movement speed, and applies defense down to all enemies within his circle. So he has an aura, Toolshed has an aura, and then there's other characters like Pika Pika has an aura, and Friendly Dude also have an aura. So you could stack all of their auras. Those are all damage auras. And so you could do that in bosses to greatly increase your damage output, and you could also do the same with defense auras as well. So Stan has one, Lily has one, Uther has a leader ability that can do one, so if you're lacking in survivability, you could stack those instead. Another thing for increasing your overall damage is the movement that you can do. And so when you have your characters in all of their different squads here, it is very tempting to let them free range and free roam. And so what you'll do is you'll like click select all and you'll click him and you're like, okay, this is good. But what you want to do instead for bosses and such is you want to move them and you want to hold them all in one spot. And so I'm just going to pause here so I don't insta-kill this boss. And so what that'll do is they'll all have their auras going, and it'll all be affecting every single one of the characters, rather than if the characters were spread out, the aura might only cover the characters in that squad. And so that works with both the defense and the offensive auras. Another thing is when you are moving your characters, if you're moving your characters from down here to up here, and you're attacking a boss, it's better to click your character, move it a little bit, click your character, move it a little bit, click your character, move it a little bit, so you're doing damage to the boss and keeping your skill rotations going while you're sitting there slowly moving. That is most useful as well for your healers, because if you're sitting there running across a boss and the boss is just still sitting there in the middle hitting you, your healers aren't going to be able to keep up. And so that's what happens in the lower levels when you're panicking like, oh crap, my squad is about to die. That's what you need to do. You need to move your characters away just a little bit so they can move and heal, and then move them away so they move and heal, rather than saying, oh crap, and move them as far away as possible. And so that's what I call stutter stepping. Another thing is the different kinds of passives that you could have play a vital role in doing damage to the different kinds of squads you bring in. And I'm going to show you that real quick here before I finish this video. And so right here. It shows all of the different kinds of buffs. So we're going to go ahead and remove them all, and you could see which kinds. So Jaina right now is giving me a 40% attack buff, and then it doubles. And so I do Nippleman, he's also a 40% attack buff. So I can see Windsummers increases cast speed, Foxy increases HP, Queen of Diamonds increases move speed, and so you could pick and choose ones that are going to help you. So like crit rate, defense up, received healing, more defense, cooldown speeds. So there's a cooldown power or crit power. What was that? Yeah, crit power. So there's all of these different kinds. And so the best ones are going to be the attack ones for mages, light DPS, and then ranged units you want like crit power, crit rate, and then for doing mages that have cast speeds, you could do like cast speed units as well. And then if you want more survivability and more tankiness, defense is okay, but what is better is HP, just because of the nature of the game. And so you could play around with these, but they do play like endgame. You could see all of the different kinds of buffs I'm giving, and so that's why passives are an important thing to level up, but you still need to have the skills first, and then the passives are going to be an end game thing that you work on. So that's it, my top 10 tips and tricks. It was kind of all over the place, but I hope this helped new players learn and are able to grow more and faster because they can now understand a little bit more on the game. And so these are all things you will learn over time, or if you join a good alliance, they can help you to learn these kinds of things as well. And so yeah, that's Karata signing off here, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.